Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had your lunch and enjoyed the day so far. The next session will talk about the New World Order Web3 Metaverse. And please welcome the moderator, Tobias Bauer, the principal of Blockchain Founder Funds. Tobias, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, and I hope that the room will fill up in the next couple of minutes so we have a proper audience here, because I do think the topic is going to be very, very interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about the New World Order. What does that mean? Web3, Metaverse, and business opportunities. And everybody's talking about it, but I do think there's a lot of clarification, a lot of things we need to talk about and discuss today. And I do have three amazing experts here, which I'm very, very excited to share the stage today. So before I give a quick intro, I want to give the stage to the main guys over here. And we can jump in with a very quick intro from you guys' side, and maybe just a very quick sentence of how we got in touch with the metaverse as of now in your career. Maybe you want to give it a go?
Thanks, Tobias, for the introduction. And hello, everyone. My name is Lea Wang. I'm representing Tradev Group here. We are a narrow broker and financial technology developers. And myself is from the Fintech background, and I'm specialized in the bridge and aggregation technology, risk management, hosting and connectivity, and other trade supporting tools, etc. And I'm very glad to be here today and seeing a lot of familiar and new faces.
Hi, my name is Carney, and I'm from FXHB Asset Management Company, a boutique family office. So I manage all the fintech, crypto, ventures or related projects. Started this journey in 2017-18 when there was only like Bitcoin and Ether. To now we have DeFi, we have Web3, GameFi, Metaverse, and the list goes on.
Hi, this is Vinay. So as part of the Chief Operating Officer for MaxxTrader Systems under Singapore Exchange, my task is to run the end-to-end technology for multi-assets, so which includes FX, CFDs, and now crypto. And our target segment is typically the banks, the broker-dealers, the hedge fund. Some of actually, our clients are here who have been using our technology to help their own clients. Now at SGX Group, we are running multiple initiatives. And the idea is to marry the two worlds, marry the TradFi and the crypto native world. This word has been, crypto native has been become quite, we need to marry the two words. We need to kind of take that line out. And how we're doing that is we are actually working on some of the good blockchain-based ideas in the traditional finance use cases, which we can cover in time to come. And likewise, the good practices of traditional finance systems into the blockchain ideas. So yeah, exciting times ahead, and I'm glad to be part of this panel to discuss more.
Awesome. Yeah, so we run a venture capital fund, and we have done over 100 investments in the Web3 space. And I'm not going to lie, I've probably seen around 1,000 different metaverses since probably the last 6 to 8 months. And there was all sorts of metaverses, right? We had metaverses for hiking. We had metaverses for health. We have metaverses for finance. Obviously, we have the big guys like Sandbox who made already a bit of headlines. And now it's a really interesting angle of what are we going to do with all this metaverses, and what is the metaverse in the first place? I think there's a lot of different definitions what people having across different spaces. And since this is a B2B fintech event, I want to hear how you guys define the metaverse in itself with the angle we are talking today. And maybe we can just run through and start with the other side over there, just get an idea of like, how do you define the metaverse and what it is for you, just to give the audience a broader context.
I think there are two parts to it. One is that how we see, let's say, metaverse in general, and let's say how we can tag it back to, let's say, what we do in like a B2B finance. So obviously, metaverse in general, as we all know, is kind of bringing that real world actually on internet to kind of create that immersive experience and obviously make you more relatable. We saw that in COVID, everybody was happy that I don't need to travel to office and I don't need to travel to trading floor and I can trade from my home. But then in reality, they all became, quite in silos. They wanted that experience, the human touch, they want the social experience, and that was kind of missing. And I think that is one problem which Metaverse can solve, to create the same kind of an experience which you have in your day-to-day real world in the online space. And how it kind of be tagged to finance is actually, there's an interesting project which we did 5-6 years back. Probably we were too early for that. And we should have come to you actually for the funding. But then we actually created a VR app, which was a trading app. And we created this for the asset managers because they used to have multiple screens, to trade. And we so created on a HoloLens an app where they can see the dashboard, they can see the blotter, they can see the chart and the news in that kind of app. I mean, it was a great immersive experience, but it was way too early. The user experience, the strain which it puts on your eyes. So idea was great, but then that requires more work to validate it. Yeah, so for me, there will be a lot of interesting ideas which will come from Metaverse, which will improve the trading experience of the traders.
I think it's really about bridging in the end, right? Of giving those two worlds a connection. Maybe, Carney, you want to give a quick idea of how you see the Metaverse?
Okay, great. So I get this question a lot. What is the Metaverse? To me, it's not a game. It's not just a land in sandbox. It's the whole internet evolution. We're talking about the convergence between the virtual and physical world that can embed ownership, interaction, and even transactions in a whole new level with Web3. So now we're talking about having what's the difference between the current metaverse, the nano metaverse we're in. Actually, we are in metaverse already. We have so many apps on our phone. We're just trapped in pockets of Mario Kart's world, Facebook's world, Instagram world. But those are Web 2 metaverse. We're talking about we live in Facebook world by their rules, not by our own rules, not by what we can do. So whatever you own on Facebook is not yours. Whatever you post on Instagram is not yours. Even a LinkedIn post is not yours. So the emergence of Web3 tends to, everyone's talking about ownership, but ownership transacts to business opportunity. I think it's crazy. Then the next point I want to talk about is all about engagement. Let's just say that we're still back in COVID times, the pandemic days. The IFX Expo organizers say we have to get it done. Annually we need an IFX Expo. So we launch it on what? Facebook Live, Zoom. Sign up as soon as possible. But you are capped at what? 500 candidates or speakers. And in that metaverse, we can hear big panel speaking, and you guys will be on video off, on your Zoom mode, and doing other stuff or participating in it. So where's the engagement? So if I were to change things around, I say, look, IFX Expo rented a place in Decentraland, mapping everything you see today, from booth to audience to speaker hall, with sponsors, ticketing through NFTs, ownership, free gifts from NFTs. How much more engaging you can do? You can do everything you do now in the metaverse. The engagement, the ownership, and more importantly, the interaction, and how much more business opportunity will derive from scenario 2 compared to scenario 1. So just a standpoint, just like that, right, it's going to be brilliant.
No, I think I very much agree, right? Especially during the pandemic, we had every single event online, and it was crazy fast how things went back to offline. And that's, I think, very much on your point of that there was no utility, there wasn't actual engagement within a lot of these online events. So now we need to figure out a way of improving this, of making this an actual substitute. So Lea, as a project director, right, where you do probably see a lot of different things in the space and probably have some projects on your roadmap, how do you define the metaverse, and what is it for you and Tradev Group in general?
Right, so, well, they are all good points, and you basically covered my points. Just kidding. So I do agree that, so metaverse is a really hot topic in recent years, and however, it's still obscure as a concept itself, and different people may see it differently. But as for me, I'd like to see it from a technology point of view. It's more like digitized society, or let's say online society, where the advanced technologies are used, like augmented reality and blockchain and ultra low latency network, etc. And it's focusing on these 3D experiences, live service, and human computer interacting, these kind of things. And most importantly, that it's not a separate world than our current world, than the offline world. On the contrary, it's part of it, and it's working with the real personality identification, and it has a mature financial system that linking between the traditional and the modern financial assets. This may still sound quite abstract because, yeah. But putting in this way, imagine now there's an expo, IF Expo in Mexico, and instead of we need to fly like across the half of the earth for 17 hours, we can just log in via account and using some tiny chips of the VR devices, and then we log in and we are actually there. We can interacting with everybody on that in that expo via the vivid 3D projection or the holographic. And once the business has been agreed, instead of the traditional fiat, we can also pay with the agreed tokens. So this is kind of metaverse I'm picturing.
So to summarize this, I think the metaverse is more than a digital world, right? And I think we need to be very clear, because a lot of principles are going to be turned upside down in terms of, supporting the creator economy, actual ownership within digital world, which we haven't had before. It's way more than just walking around with an avatar in a world and attending a conference, right? I mean, there's a lot of aspects towards that we're going to cover in a second of how Web3 plays into it and how this can be used for a lot of, folks like you guys who work in the financial industry and who can use that for an advantage in order to engage customers more effectively, build business relationships, and of course, save a lot of operating costs. Now, as we probably all agree that we are not yet fully there yet, and there's still a lot of challenges, I'd love to ask the experts of, and maybe Lea, we're going to kick it off with you this time, is what are the challenges? Why are we not there yet? Why is the metaverse still not the metaverse?
Right. This one actually, it's very interesting from a very practical level. I think the infrastructure is not yet there. We need to have the infrastructure be ready and implement it across the border, because the metaverse users are going to be global. We cannot have only, fast internet or the servers only in one or two places. It's not going to be work. And also the cybersecurity, which is of great importance, because as more and more online users are going to join this digital world, we need to protect our digital identification and our digital assets. So the security is very important. I think we're not there yet. And also, the regulation, I think, is the most tricky part, because the regulation on the way, it always requires, for example, the transparency and the data is traceable. However, on the metaverse, which is based on the blockchain, where the charm is actually on decentralization and the anonymous. So only when these two can find a common ground and balance out each other, we can really expecting like a safe and a civilized and exciting metaverse.
Carney, from an asset management perspective, what are the challenges for the metaverse?
I think when I view it from projects like Tobias, what happens is, I think to add on to value add at this point, I break it down to two. First one is the hardware and the software. You don't expect everyone to carry a VR everywhere they go just to enter the metaverse. No, we can easily take a button, we can go to Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, but we just can't, bring a VR set along. So that has to change a little. The second one, which I think is moving, is graphics. We came from Decentraland with the Minecraft graphic all the way to Ready Player One with cool graphic. I see that evolving because the big boys are coming in, the Ubisoft, all the GameFi companies which are proven, like your FIFA and stuff like that. We are already sucked into their nano metaverse. If they are going to Web 3.0, we are just with cool dedicated graphics. Metaverse has to catch up. Okay, so we're talking about that is the hardware and software. Second, we talk about trust. Trust. I think this is not only applied to metaverse. We're talking about the whole cryptocurrency community. After the recent saga from ZipMax all the way to 3 Arrows, a lot of trust are lost, and we need to rebuild the trust. Thank goodness, the good thing is that the institutions are coming in. The SGX, the JP Morgan, HSBC. The recent news about DBS having a space in Decentraland. All these are helping out. But like what Nina said, we don't have that regulation framework approved like in the centralized system, whereby this is approved by the SEC or the SGX of the world or even MES of the world out there to create more credibility. Second, from a governance standpoint, there was a lack of transparency into corporate governance, risk mitigation, risk policy, and more importantly, money laundering issues and stuff. So anything could happen in the metaverse today. But how are we going to make sure that like social media. How do we make sure our kids or anyone entering the metaverse is going to be safe and it's not going to be chaotic without any rules in this decentralized space? So these are the 2 points that I really think that I stress that has to improve before we can get huge adoption.
Yeah, very, very much agree. I think you covered a bunch of really interesting points. Vinay, I'm personally a huge fan of trading with metaverses. So from your background, what are the challenges for the metaverse right now?
I think, I mean, a lot of actually challenges are the same, because at the end of the day, you may come with an exciting idea that I can create a path-breaking trading platform in metaverse, creating all the experience. And it can be two-part. It can be, let's say, one as a trading platform, which you can create. Second is creating the trading environment. I mean, a lot of traders, let's say, old school traders are still used to trading on a pit floor, or let's say they're used to trading in a dealing room, or let's say even if you're a retail, probably you like that sort of engagement with other traders to share the ideas. So this is the kind of an opportunity. But the challenge today is exactly the same. Like when we created this VR app, the hardware was a challenge. We had to do 2 to 3 times to make it more palatable with the hardware, which people actually can carry. And they can still not carry. Like 1 hour of app suddenly puts you like like you're like in a zombie state kind of a thing. So the idea is that the hardware quality has to improve, and also it has to become affordable. There has to be few versions of hardware which you can have, let's say from the budget to super cool kind of a hardware gadget. Second part is that in terms of user experience, because that's also another thing. If you have a very flaky app, I mean, especially with the trading activity, nobody's going to trust that flaky app, because one mistake can cost you a few dollars, and few $1,000 sometimes. So that adoption rate will only come in when you have done grinds of kind of testing the user experience and testing everything in that kind of a world. So these are inherent challenges which you have, which face for the mass adoption of that. Now the good part, what basically Carney said is that now the big boys are coming into the club. And this is where I think the May crypto winter actually helped in that sense, that people like SGX or Temasek or MAS or DBS, they are coming into the game. I mean, if you see, MAS is now running a project called Project Guardian, which is basically tokenizing the corporate bond and in the blockchain and making it accessible to retail. Now, these are early steps for them, because obviously they cannot start using a metaverse project, but then at least they're getting interested into the real blockchain ideas to bring to the trading fraternity, to bring that access to the retail traders. And I think that is a very good thought, because this will actually put a lot of firepower to go into more broader ideas, like how I can create a trading ecosystem in the metaverse, how we can make it more accessible for people, how we can create an ETF wrapper or a tokenized wrapper for people to invest in those ideas. It's just to make it more accessible to the real life world.
Yeah. No, I think we covered a bunch of really interesting challenges. I mean, summarizing, obviously, hardware is still a big problem, right? It hasn't reached a stage yet which makes it immersive. I think another challenge is, of course, on the security side, right? The more we get into the metaverse side, the more we are prone to breaches, to hacks, all these different things. And I think in general, from a mindset perspective, I think there's also challenges, right? I mean, we need to have a unified understanding of what the metaverse means and is. And I think today we probably had an interesting thought on this. Now, as an investor, in case there are investors in the audience, what we are looking right now is, when we invest in the metaverse field, is more like infrastructure for metaverse, right? Because as I mentioned in the beginning, there's so many metaverses around there, and so many are probably not going to be around here in the next 6 months to a year, because they're not going to find those adoption and not going to find the interest of customers. So like, how can we bring e-commerce, right? How can we bring financial services into the metaverse? How can we build that infrastructure so that you guys, banks, anyone can use it? So as this is probably the most important topic for this panel, is kind of what opportunities do you guys see in the metaverse specifically for fintech, right? How can one of your guys' company move into the metaverse and make the most out of it? And maybe Lea, you want to give it a go and explain some of the projects you guys are doing?
Sure. So if we're talking about the opportunities, I think first of all we need to understand what are the core elements for the metaverse, which are the e-financing and augmented reality and the ultra-low latency network. And these are kind of attractive to whom the younger generation of people who are used to the small mobile devices such as mobile phones or smartwatch, and they are enjoy or prefer the visualized and the fast-paced kind of content like short videos, live streamings, etc. They do not necessarily have the patience or the interest to follow the long-term global news, which country's currency is going to go strong against the gold, or which companies this quarterly financial report is not good, so probably next quarter their stock is going to go low, or etc. So what interest and attract them are the fun, entertaining, and the instant kind of return of the investment. So this actually gives the brokers a good opportunity to diverse their offerings to attract this kind of population to their trading world, because on top of the traditional instruments, for example, currency pairs, commodities, and the crude oil, stocks, etc., they can also add, for example, NFTs or the other cryptos to their offerings. And I believe the same goes for the technology providers and the platform developers as well, because nowadays we know that it's via websites, via the mobile page, they're all 2D. And to attract those video game like the new generations, I think they should adapt to the multi-purpose platform, which is not only for trading, but also for education, the learning, and e-banking, and even the entertaining, social interaction kind of things. And most importantly, this has to change not only from the 2D world, but also to a more 3D and the local experience kind of things, I believe.
Carney, you want to add on?
Great. Okay, so I come from we invest in an FXHB trading platform, so I will come from that perspective. I think first I'll cover it in 3 points. So first point is this: I think Metaverse gives us global access. So what I'm saying is, from Thailand we can buy assets in US, and from US I can buy assets in the emerging markets, and so on. So this global access, right now, for example, I'll ask you, can we buy stocks in South Africa right now? You can, but it's going to be hard. So this thing could open up a whole new ball game on the Metaverse. Second, this is very interesting. If you can Google, Ice Poker Virtual Casino rented a space in the Decentraland. Within 3 months, they clocked 7.5 million revenue, more than 6,000 users online at the same time, and every table can host up to 1,000 poker players. Just this alone. From a virtual casino standpoint, P2P, subjected to license in future, I'm not very sure, but if they are in, that's always thing, right? The gaming revolution is taking place. When is going to be the FX revolution? It could be, to cover out these 2 points. And the last point is engagement. So right now, as an FXCID broker, we go through means like local marketing campaigns and all local KOLs, affiliated marketing, and more importantly, is really localized things. So target segment is basically their target segment. But what if I throw you an example whereby, potentially Warren Buffett hosts a seminar on Decentraland. We can have millions subscribed to it. Then he ends up and say, look, from here we can invest in stocks in Thailand. Please use XX brokers. And this is the promo code and stuff. How many people sign up? How many people can sign up? And more importantly, how huge is this engagement compared to the current one we have? Yeah. So I think it's crazy, the potential. Yeah. But subjected to disclaimers or regulations. Yeah.
And of all the points you mentioned, what do you think is the first adoption point?
I think everyone's a business owner or very smart people. We see ways we can get in. More importantly, right, is that like all pocket metaverse, why are some people on Facebook? Why are some people on Instagram but not on TikTok? There's so many metaverse out there. It's more importantly which community is the biggest and the community aligns to my business idea. So that is more importantly. About which idea we get through, I think when the regulations are set in the playing field, business opportunities will come in. I have no qualms about which one will come in.
Awesome. Vinay, love to hear your thoughts as well.
So I'll take a relatively different stand because I think for any good idea in metaverse to get a mass level adoption, we have to somehow tie it back to the traditional finance world because, we are in FX and CFD conference. We have to, isn't it? So the idea is that what, let's say, typically an FX broker wants. They want to actually give all possible access, all possible asset class access on one single platform. So if I am, let's say, a retail client of a big broker, if I come to the broker and say, hey, do you have something in Metaverse which I can invest? If the answer is no, they will try and look for another broker. So I think as a fintech company, as a company which has been giving technology to retail brokers, or let's say giving them a technology to make a CFD version of everything, our responsibility is to even find a way to maybe working with venture capital like you or asset managers like you to create those packaged product which we can list as a CFD, for example, and give that access to all the retail brokers to give it to their clients. So what you need for that? You need proper benchmarking. So we can actually work on a benchmarking, how you're going to settle those products. We need packaging. We need an ETF wrapper. We need to kind of create a diversified project, which basically a retail investor can come to a broker and broker can come to you for your own fundraising. So we as a fintech can actually fill that gap, which basically marries the retail investor or the investors who are interested in these ideas to come and actually fund one of these metaverse projects. And you become the validator, you become the arranger, but they become the investor. And I think that sort of a gap is what we need to fill in. And we can do that because we have been doing this for the last 20 odd years. And I think companies like us also have been helping a lot of brokers to streamline the whole process. And that is probably our responsibility to give it back to the metaverse world. So we borrow something from them and we give it back something to them.
Is that in sense of democratizing access to an extent?
I mean, it is like give that access to everybody. Because what happens is that one is that I can be in that immersive experience of metaverse, and one is that I like the idea, but I don't know how to invest in that idea. So there are two parts to it. We need to find also ways that all the big ideas in metaverse or NFT, we need to make them investable. And it's already happening actually in the crypto space. But where the gap is that you either have to go to very crypto native space or you stay on the sideline. The bridge is missing. And I think learning from the FX and the CFD experience for the last 20 years, CFD could be that bridge where you create those wrappers, whether you tokenize asset or CFD or ETF, which actually bring the investor of the traditional finance into the crypto native projects. I mean, that's what our take is.
Yes, I fully agree. And I think just covering this access point you mentioned, right? I think KKR yesterday announced that they're putting some of their private equity fund on a chain, on a public chain, which is a big shift, right? I mean, there are companies in the world like Republic where you can, as an individual with $100, invest in a startup, but it hasn't been happening on a private equity company, right? Typically, you have to put in large pay downs, large capital commitments, and you have to be an accredited investor, which obviously cuts out a lot of people from investing in private markets, right? And I think that's a really interesting point you're covering of just like how can we use that technology in order to democratizing access and give access to anyone in the world who wants to be part of that asset. And I think you talked a lot about all these different things now, but I want to have some tangible ideas. If let's say I'm a FX company, I'm an online broker, whatever, how should I get started even, right? There's so many resources, and you guys obviously on the forefront already and done a lot of things and put your hats down. So how would I start if I wanted to go and see, let's do something in a metaverse? How would you advise them starting, Lea, for example?
What do you think?
I mean, I personally think it's a lot of education involved. Right, I think you have to speak a lot. I mean, we build a whole expert network around this, right? As a fund, people expect us to know everything, which is absolutely not the case. So we rely on a lot of third-party sources, but I think it goes a lot more deeper, right? You have to narrow down something from a strategy perspective because you can't start with anything. So I just want to get an idea of like, how did you guys start? How did you guys navigate in the space? And maybe when it needs some kind of thing, we can all start with Vinay over there.
I mean, I think it is a step-by-step approach because if we go to a retail broker and say, okay, fine, now what do you want to do in metaverse? They will say, okay, but I don't even do crypto today. How can I go to the metaverse? So I think it's a step-by-step evolution. We need to educate the brokers, and we also need to, solve some problem for them. And if the problem is that, okay, I need better access, or I'm, let's say, facing some competition from some of the crypto exchanges, or let's say my clients are asking for me to create more products. So we need to go step by step. So one step is that make them familiar, solve their issues. I mean, even today, forget about, let's say, Metaverse, just for your layer 1 tokens, the kind of latency you have to trade, the kind of slippage you face, the kind of inefficiency or not being transparent. I mean, these are fundamental issues which you have even in today in crypto trading. So I would suggest that for any broker, the first step is to get some exposure into crypto by actually launching some of these tokens or some of these CFD product. And then as the investor demand grows, move into the other steps, okay, how I can actually create a tokenized NFT, as you said that, or how I can actually go and fund some of these metaverse project. Can I create a product around that? And then obviously, if really, let's say, the companies have been investing into this project, they can launch a immersive trading experience for their retail trader. That could be a good marketing catch. I mean, today we do these demos over a booth or over a Zoom. Imagine you create a metaverse demo for them to actually navigate on their own. It's a very different kind of an experience. It's education, and it's also an experience. So I think it is a very evolving process. We have to go step by step. The brute force will not work here.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. Carney, do you want to add on?
Okay, great. So I come from a retail perspective because So I come from a retail perspective because at the end of the day, we serve the clients. Okay, so from an FXHB standpoint, we transacted from just pure institutional IBs to the huge affiliated marketing stuff like that. So we on what basis? Because we want to engage them, the communities. And where are the communities right now? So right now we are still in the Web2 social media space, but we know inevitable, some will flow into the cryptos, more will flow into the metaverse in time to come. Kids are born with iPad these days, And with that said, right, if metaverse is a huge thing, right, it's a tool of engagement for to stay relevant. So the more important thing is to stay relevant in those fields, engage wherever the pockets of metaverse out there in the market. And to start off, it's okay. Like for example, JP Morgan bought a land in Decentraland, but no, it's just a lounge and providing just concierge services. But no one knows what JP Morgan wants to do. DBS as well. DBS says that they want to do some carbon credit, but no one knows what they want to do in the future. Figure out the thing first. Get involved. Provide some education, stay relevant, say, look, XXX broker is in this space, rented a space in Decentraland, watch out what we'll do next. It's limitless. I give you an example. This is my guess of what JP Morgan is doing. They rented a space in Decentraland. They can do staking products, mortgage, with real estate, virtual real estate, and the list goes on, even, to lending and stuff like that. They can be a virtual bank inside. So if they can be such huge potential, why can't a broker come in and do something as well?
I mean, it's something new to sell, basically. It gives a new avenue to attract the investors also.
Yeah, so I talk it from the end standpoint, right, whereby I want to serve the new audience, new public, new community. Where are they? More importantly, where are they? Where are they? Are they still in, the introducing broker space? Are they in the social media space? Where are they next? I need to prepare for that. And that is where I say, let's stay relevant to the field.
Right. Oh, this is actually a very good question you ask, because it's the same question I was thinking about. How should I start a metaverse project? Because, I have nothing to add, but I'd like to listen from you guys. Because I'm even struggling finding the providers that can even support such kind of projects. For example, the metaverse. Where can I find the platform providers, and where can I find this, because the technology is not there yet. That's my struggle.
Okay, so I answer your question. So every time I want to invest in a metaverse project, my first question to them is, what makes me want to spend 15 minutes on your project or app every day? What makes me? Facebook made me. Instagram made me. TikTok kind of swing me over. But what made me want to click on your app or stay in your metaverse for at least 15 minutes a day? And there's so many metaverse out there. We can cope because we have close to 50 apps or more than 100 apps on our phone every day. So we can cope. But what makes me want to be drawn in and spend time on it? And that's the first question I ask. Second, I think infrastructure is keeping up. Everyone has fresh ideas, and a lot of people are trying to build enablers, Web3s, and dumping into the NFT space. So the infrastructure is catching up. But one thing I want to say, it's not tested yet. This metaverse concept is still very new. Yes. It's not like a Python or Java that is tested, for the last decades of 20 years ago. So it's still very new. We have to give it some time and faith for it to mature. That's for now, and I'm sure improvement will come along the way.
Maybe just one last thing in terms of, because you asked where you can find talent or like tech talent. I think what a lot of our companies are doing, there's like two approaches, right? So you either give it a full go and you hire a developer team, which obviously requires a lot more capital because salaries in the blockchain developer space are not the cheapest anymore. Also across Southeast Asia, it's been skyrocketing because it's so in demand. Or you, of course, go to outsourcing companies, right? Like Vietnam has, East Europe, they have a lot of companies where you can send exactly what you want and they build it for you. But it's a commitment perspective, right? Of like how big of a strategy impact should this have? And of course, if it is, in my opinion, if it is really part of the strategy, if it's really part of the business model moving forward, because you want to be innovative and stay innovative, it should be built in-house. Just because you want to keep the IP in-house, you want to keep control of what's happening, and you want to also really control the quality of it, right? And again, as you guys mentioned, it is about the quality because no one is going to use it if it's not engaging enough, right? If it doesn't draw you to your app for 50 minutes a day, it's probably not going to work. So as we don't have much time left, I want to go and sort of, what's you guys' outlook over the next like 1 or 2 years? How do you think this has progressed? How do you see the fintech world flowing into the metaverse and Web3 space? Who wants to give it a go?
I mean, I think from trading point of view, if you say, then we have covered a lot in our discussion that how the whole trading infrastructure has to be created for any product like that to get traded and draw investment and the interest from the investor community. But let's say, keeping the trading part aside, because as a fintech we can do many things. But I feel that I was reading an article, and it was a good article, that for metaverse to succeed, it also has to solve some real issues, some fundamental issues. I mean, it's good to have a gamification or buying property land and creating concierge, because that's one way of addressing the issue. But imagine, let's say, if we create a completely different immersive kind of a education kind of experience. I was reading an article and it says that like instead of textbook and PowerPoint and iPad, what if actually I'm reading a history lesson, I'm actually in that era. I mean, that will bring a different kind of experience for people to study. If we create the same kind of experience, we can go to any strata of society and give the relevant educational experience for them at a much lower cost. You said that I don't want to fly to the conference for 17 hours. Same way, why do a Southeast, let's say, one of the country who wants to go to an Ivy League in US, why do you need to go to US if you can get the same experience sitting in your room and at a much lower cost and staying with your family, staying with your society? So I think metaverse as a concept is a great idea, but it has to solve some fundamental problem. And when you're solving this fundamental problem, I mean, education is a fundamental right of everybody. If you can address that, if you can attack that, imagine the kind of investment or attention you will get from TradFi world. Then the whole world can be immersed, because you're getting a lot of ideas, you're getting a lot of investment, and you're creating an investment vehicle, you're creating a trading infrastructure, you're kind of marrying the whole ecosystem then. So that's how I see the future of metaverse.
Okay, so to me, I think Tobias' point is right, is that there's so many metaverse out there. How do we, as genuine traditional companies, go in or even get engaged or even work with them? Is this? I think that metaverse will consolidate because there's too many of them. But end of the day, it's very different, right? So right now, one of the biggest metaverse out there is a GameFi project that only tracks gamers. So how do we align to that? Nah, not really too much. Then we have, the other one is move to earn. Every time you take a step, they give you some tokens in Stephen. But you only attract that kind of audience into the sports, into healthy lifestyle. Not so much of gamers or even some of the traders and stuff. So what I felt could take off, don't quote me, but I think SocialFi will take off. Let's just talk about a social media in Web3 space. Social media, you can, from all the way from different age group, all the way, everyone can, different races, different country, all can get involved into this space. And that's where the larger the community is, the more credible it gets, and more importantly, we want to tap onto their community, like what we want today. So look out, I think that this bear market is really healthy. They phase out all the weeds in the industry today. They want to make quick buck. Good projects are coming up with more credible platforms or blockchain developers and even personalities that run this thing. So I'm looking forward to a brighter future, definitely. we all know that blockchain is inevitable. Crypto trading is just one side of things, but blockchain is inevitable. It will stay for life, and it could be embedded in the next generation faster than we think so. So stay relevant. I think that's what I will say.
Okay, so these are very good points, and I just want to add on top of some very practical kind of opinion. I think moving forward for the financial trading industry and the metaverse, they can somehow merge and benefit from each other, because as the metaverse evolves, the infrastructure and the regulations are going to be there for the metaverse society. However, we can also utilize the same kind of resources to our financial trading industry. For example, from the hosting point of view, in order to access the metaverse and to have the smooth experience, non-interrupted experience, the ISPs needs to make the network, global network, very good, either from the 5G point of view or the cross-connection, fiber connection point of view. And these are exactly the same we can adapt for our hosting providers that can adapt for using that kind of resource to enhance our trading, financial trading industry, to guarantee a better live feed streaming and order execution, or even the live transaction, etc. And also, from coming back to the regulation point of view, because with the metaverse maybe spread it out, and there will be more and more online users, and by then I believe the digital identification check or the AML compliance, etc., for the RegTech providers, they can already have a better solutions or technology can support the anti-fraud or the security of the digital things, which we can also use for our industry. So it's like a mutual beneficial and supporting kind of concept.
Very, very interesting, and I agree with all of you guys are saying. So today we covered what is a metaverse, right? We covered the opportunities in general for the metaverses, especially also in the fintech space, in the FX trading, in the asset management world. We talked a little bit about the challenges in the metaverse side, where we obviously lacking hardware, where we're lacking security challenges, engagement, actual utility. And then we talked about where we see the metaverse moving forward. I know that I have about 3.5 minutes left. So if there's any questions in the audience, you guys are interested in anything we can answer, I'd love to give it a go. So yeah, how are we going to do this with a microphone? Okay, perfect.
Hello, that's very interesting. It's Tom Higgins here from Goldeye and Crypto Switch.
Thank you.
We're a tech provider, and we've been around 14 years, so we've worked in the FX space a lot. But about a year ago, I spoke to Decentraland about building a virtual white label broker offering in there, so that we could offer, every broker could have access to a virtual stall, if you like. But at the time, they told me that the technology really wasn't there to be able to have immersive enough experience, because I wanted them to be able to see streaming prices in there and actually trade through it. And they said, well, you can't really do that. Has that changed? Do we think, yeah, is it possible? Because I like the idea still, but they told me that you couldn't really do it yet.
You guys want, or should I?
I mean, from my limited information, I think nothing much has changed there. I mean, it's still the kind of same challenges you face, because as I said that it's still the kind of user experience, and I think the kind of tech investment you would want to have to build that kind of a tech stack is not there. But yeah, I mean, as the idea gets the grip, more and more people will come in, and that's what I think people like you and I, we have to solve that problem basically. That's how it is.
I mean, we do see startups building something like this or going towards the direction, but it is still a very early stage yet, right? But the problem then is adoption, right? Because not a lot of users in the space are forward thinking in that sense, and it takes a lot of approval, like very long sales cycles. That's why startups tend to stay away from it for a bit, unless you obviously like a Decentraland, someone larger. When was this conversation?
It was probably about 1 year ago.
1 year ago, yeah. I mean, not much has changed, but I think there are tendencies that people are looking at it and are trying to figure out a solution. But I think it's probably another half a year out in terms of what we see as a fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think there were some questions.
This is more from a slightly regulatory perspective. How do you see protecting retail clients in that industry, in the metaverse, not the industry? But we're all talking about building new products, providing new products, getting all that retail space into this and buying into these new products? Have you thought about protecting your customers and not taking advantage of them and that side of things?
So I view it from a regulatory standpoint. We're in this world today that we look at tier 1 regulatory bodies, tier 2. But the crypto side of things, right? They are proactive. Like crypto exchanges days, some are regulated everywhere around the world, some are not. But NFTs are not regulated yet, GameFi are not regulated yet, Metaverse are not regulated yet. So government also has to be, they cannot be proactive on it. They have to be reactive on it. I don't expect them to know about GameFi just after sorting out all the crypto exchanges. I don't expect them to know about NFTs after sorting out the GameFis as well. So it takes a lot more time. And that is why there's a gap between the retail going in or the big boys going in and before it's getting regulated. It's a two-way game, right? Although we have a lot of hype about this degen group of people, the Web3 people, they don't really care about regulatory standpoint. But you inevitable to have a platform that we can trade with trust, trade with security, and more importantly, trade with ease, right? So that is all that we need to catch up from a hardware, technical, and even a regulatory standpoint. Something we can't control, but we hope the governments are looking at it soon.
Thank you. We ran out of time, but I'm pretty sure we can meet the speakers afterwards for any other questions which are pending. So thanks again for filling up the room in the end. It's very exciting. And thanks to all you guys for being such star panelists. And thanks to the organizers for having us today at the panel. And I hope you're gonna have a good time and a good days at the expo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.